Hey everybody, welcome to Trading Capital's daily live stream of the market open. Today is currently April 11th, and as we kick off the new market session, expect light volume trends ahead of CPI. Those light volume trends favor upside. However, the markets are gapping up once again. As you can see here, the spiders closed at 409 and they're trading at 410.16. So with gap ups, it's hard to chase on the long side. I specifically don't trace. There are a couple plays that I am looking at right now. All of them are on the short side. I really only have a long level on Microsoft if it were to fall a little bit lower. But let's discuss today's setups. Three setups I have on the radar. Let me just flip my screens here to regular trading hours. All right. First off, Micron. We played that yesterday twice. We're not going with the same level. We have to go a little bit higher. But basically, Micron for a short. The level that I like Micron for a starter position on the short side is, let me just isolate it down here. The aggressive level is 64.29. 64.29. Let me just flip to the daily chart here. So you can see we're into multi resistance. The big level is this gap fill around the $66 level, pierce of $66. But I do like the 64.30 level. It's right around this pivot high over here. You can see you have three major pivot highs. So if you want to let it pierce that level, that is the more aggressive. You can also see we have this downsloping wedge pattern that looks very enticing, and it may be trying to break out. But there's still tons and tons of resistance there. And being the fact that Micron had an 8% move yesterday, it's going to need some consolidation. But I like this 64.30 level. 64.30 is where a aggressive short can be played. The more conservative level will be these pivot highs over here, around 65.36, 65.40, give or take. Okay, so we have our levels. That one's definitely on the radar. I'm also looking at WW International. That's gapping up tremendously. Now, this one, the only short side I would play is right up to this gap fill. Basically around 692 on WW and 706. Okay, so that one's gapping up on news. It is a bit of a smaller weighting, so definitely play that cautious. Adjust your share positioning size in accordance with the smaller cap volatility. And then the other one is MSTR. So obviously we all know Bitcoin had a big surge. The high on Bitcoin yesterday popped up to 30,000. Just over 30,400, which is why Coinbase, MSTR, Mara, all those sympathy trades are starting to rally to the upside. So the first level I'm looking at is around this gap fill. You do have a secondary gap right around 342. But I do like MSTR for a potential at, let me just see my level here, 324.50. 324, sorry, my Siri's just activated on my phone. 324.50 on MSTR. I do like that for a potential short trade. So it's right around this line over here, just a pierce of this gap fill. There's also a key trend line that I'm watching on MSTR. It's basically just this trend line connecting this pivot high to this pivot high. And you can see that a lot of people might be waiting at this gap fill, so potentially let it pierce and hit that white trend line, where it may hit around the 326, 327. So in and around this vicinity, I would look for a short. But again, these are just day trades, in and out. I want to be out by around 10:30, 11 at the latest, because that's when the volume trends start to lighten up. And I don't want to get caught in an environment where the volume trends are going against us on the short side. Because we saw yesterday what happened to the S&P 500 intraday. And I mean, that was purely on light volume option flow. I mean, a massive gap down and then a huge grind and rally to the upside. So those are really the three that I'm watching. I do have Nat Gas on the radar for a long trade. Nat Gas would have to come down. Let me just take a look here. And you could play the Boyle ETF. I don't know what the actual level on Boyle is, but basically we don't want to lose this pivot. We want to maintain this pivot. If Nat Gas was to flush into, say, 223, basically, put some trend lines here. There should be decent support right at those levels, but you really don't want to lose this breakout pivot. right up there. And we could play this on the long side potentially, but we'll just have to wait and see. The dollar today is under pressure. So the dollar is down 0.41%. So that's starting to give up some of its gains from yesterday. It's interesting to see gold's actually catching a little bit of a bid here. It did take a sell-off, but it's now rebounding off of the lows. Still under 2,000, so we'll have to see there. There was big news in the mining sector with Newmont. Newmont is gapping much, much lower. They are looking to be buying out another smaller miner. So that's under some pressure just due to the dilution. That being said, GDX is up. It's very surprising to see GDX up when Newmont's down. Newmont's a big, big component of the GDX ETF. So maybe this Newmont drags the GDX down. I'm certainly waiting to see because we may have some potential short trades in that specific ETF. Let's see what else is going on here. We do have oil trading up on the session. That's actually trying to hold some positive gains and still consolidating above this or right around this near resistance, just underneath this resistance trend line. But needless to say, oil's pattern is looking, if you can maintain this bullish consolidation for another week or two, you have a good shot of moving higher to basically the next $85 level. But that remains to be seen. We just have to basically wait patiently to see what transpires there. Obviously, Microsoft is the big loser today. They were downgraded by UBS, so they are gapping lower. Will we see another move where basically Microsoft gapped down yesterday and then it rallied back up to the positive side? Will we see that? Time will tell. Nvidia is still a powerhouse stock. That one's gapping up as well on the session. So let's just pay attention to that market mover. There might be a short at a double top pierce, but I really haven't decided yet. It's not really that crazy of a move to justify a big short. Scrolling through my charts to see if there's anything else. Healthcare catching a little bit of a bid today. Gasoline futures are slightly up. So Bitcoin has pulled off of the highs. Apple's slightly up on the session. AMD's up on the session. So it's looking like Micron and MSTR are going to be our candidates to potentially short. And if we look for pattern on Coinbase and a lot of these other crypto miners, as long as Bitcoin holds up, we can actually potentially play some of them on the long side. But I'm not chasing the initial gap up. I'd rather wait for a little bit of a consolidation pattern when the volume lightens up to potentially get on the long side. There's also a potential on BITI. If Bitcoin was to get another surge into its double top, we could potentially go long BITI, which is short Bitcoin. But we'll just have to wait and see what transpires there. All right, I'm going to flip to the intraday action here. So definitely keep MSTR, Micron, and WW on a window. In terms of resistance on the S&P, I'm just going to draw a trend line in here. No, I don't like that one. Let me just see here. You do have another secondary channel, which we've been trading in. Basically, you can see here that you were chopping in it, broke down, fake out, massive rally, hit the top of the channel, hit the bottom of the channel. Now you're likely hitting the top of the channel again. So you are into some decent resistance in the near term. Yields are basically just flat. The 20-year yield's down, the 10-year yield's at 0%, the 30-year yield's down, the 2-year yield's slightly negative. Silver's catching a bid today. That one's actually been holding up fairly well in terms of price action. Nat Gas is pulled off of the highs. Baba's catching a nice bid today due to releasing their own AI bot, equivalent to Microsoft's, equivalent to Google's. Walmart's up on the session. Costco's slightly down. Nat gas is coming lower. So we have about 4 minutes to the open. I'm just gonna get all my windows ready. AMD's now trending lower. So that one is below the pre-market highs. It's actually trading at 63.20. Now the big question is ahead of CPI. Will we see selling, profit taking, people moving more defensive, or will we see aggressive positioning taking into the end of the day? Perhaps people were front running a low CPI, 5.5 handle on the CPI. We'll see. Time will tell. Spiders are pushing up here into the pre-market. Micron's back up, so keep MU on the radar. And MSTR. So spiders are resistance here for now. Doesn't mean they can't go higher. It's just that they are stuck at some near-term resistance. The Russell's positive on the session. Bitcoin's starting to move up a little bit more now. So Micron around 64.30 for a short is definitely on the radar. Alright, markets are set to open in 38 seconds. Just going to move all my screens back to regular trading. The dollar's slipping. So that's going to help oil. That's going to help the markets. It's going to help gold. All right, markets are open here. Micron's up. Nvidia gapped up, made a new high in the trend. Wow, Nvidia pushing up. Big gap up. MSTR hasn't hit the level. Micron's still on watch. You can see the spiders are at resistance here. Nvidia had a big gap up, but now coming in. Nvidia did make a new high. Tesla's positive, Ford's positive. AMC's up a couple percent. Amazon's down 1.6. Google's negative. Spiders coming in hard here. Micron's coming in as well. Gold's still holding up. Nat gas is coming down. Wow, look at Micron coming in pretty hard here. So is Nvidia. That one gapped up, made a new high. Let's take a look at Snowflake. That one's getting some heavy volume. Big gap down. WW. That one's still off of our level. MSTR. That one's just off of our level as well. You can see it didn't quite hit it. Just be patient though. We could see some action here. AMD's falling, Apple's falling, Nvidia's having a big sell. So the spiders gapped up and now filled that gap. Microsoft's at the lows of the session right now. Apple's just gone negative. Nvidia's coming in much sharper now. Tesla's trying to push up. That's an interesting chart. Spiders are catching a small bounce here. Nothing yet that's on my radar. AMD's had a big reversal. Micron's still fighting. So MSTR is starting to push up a little bit now. So keep MSTR on the radar. That one is on watch. Spiders are now to the negative side, so definitely keep MSTR on the radar. Apple's still coming in. So the crypto stocks are holding up relatively well. Microsoft's at the lows. If we get a pierce of this level, you know, around 324 pierce, I do like MSTR for a short. So keep that on the radar. The dollar's trying to bounce. Spiders, big bounce. So this is where we should get a push through. Definitely keep MSTR on that watch because it's very close. There it is, guys. I'm shorting MSTR here. 1/6 position. I got filled at 324.30. 324.30. $324.30. It's pushing up here. Next ad level's at 327. 327 or higher. All right, I'm going to pick up some more here at 326. There it is, 326.75. I just picked up some more at 326. I'll let you know my average. The stock is just moving very quickly. My average is 325.50. 325.50 on MSTR. So we're slightly out of the money. I'm going to look for maybe a cover back at this yellow trend line. We have a 1/6 position. Next level on MSTR would be basically a pierce of 327.50. And there it is, guys. Let you know if I got filled. I got filled at 328.50. 328.50. This thing is pumping. My average now is 327.15. This thing is going crazy. Bitcoin's starting to move. Dollar's starting to move. 330 is the next ad level. 330. Sorry, actually, I'll wait a little bit longer here. 331. Pierce of 331 will add. Micron's also pushing up. So Nvidia's had a big reversal, so is AMD. MSTR still remaining strong. The spiders are still near the highs of the session. Alright guys, I just got filled on NVIDIA 331.50. 331.50 on MSTR. That's a 4-6 short. That brings our average up to 328.54. NVIDIA is seeing a hard reversal. Hard reversal. Microsoft's under a lot of pressure. Tesla's still holding up very well. Bitcoin's still holding up. So MSTR is definitely acting well right now. Bitcoin's acting well. NVIDIA's under a lot of pressure, so is Apple. Next ad level on thing is MSTR's 332.50 Pierce. 332.50 Pierce. Yields are starting to perk up. Microsoft's still at the lows. Hasn't taken out yesterday's low. That'll be the big question if it does. Bitcoin's starting to move up a little bit more now. So we may see MSTR get another pop up. MSTR is pushing up, so get ready to add again. Spiders, take a look at the SPY. That's coming in now. QQQ, the Russell's leading. Qs are taking out the low from the pre-market. Bitcoin's still acting well. The dollar's trying to get a little bit of a bounce. China stocks are now coming in. Costco remains strong. JP Morgan and KRE are seeing a little bit of weakness in distribution, but still acting well. So MSTR is pulling off of our last ad level. Still just short that 4-6 position. We are out of the money. Russell's still leading the charge higher. It's at the highs of the session. The Qs are lagging. The spiders are lagging. NVIDIA is still on the negative side. Spiders are still hovering near the highs. Micron never hit our level. Bitcoin's seeing some near-term weakness. AMD's rolled over pretty hard here. So is NVIDIA. We're now seeing some weakness in some of the bank stocks. Meta's seeing some weakness. Spiders are trickling lower here. We're basically slightly out of the money on our MSTR. But the semis are definitely rolling over. That should help bring this market a little bit lower. With semis like AMD, Micron, Nvidia all starting to roll over. You can see here on the SMH, big rollover. It's actually now gone negative. Alright, so we're now in the money on our MSTR. We're going to look for about 50 cents to $1. I think we should hit that gap fill. I even think we retest this yellow trend line at 323.67. But we need to see the market start to roll. Alright, here comes MSTR, guys. Let's see if we can get some more downside in MSTR. Spiders are catching a little bit here. Nvidia is still near the lows. Microsoft still no bid yet. Hasn't taken out the lows from yesterday yet. That'll be the interesting thing. Coinbase is starting to roll over pretty hard here. Bitcoin's seeing some weakness, so this is going to help our MSTR trade. Here we go, guys. Here we go. MSTR is getting a small bounce. Spiders are still trickling. Bitcoin's still coming down, so we should see more downside. Let's see if we can get a little bit more downside. Alright, right back up. MSTR. Spiders are catching a bid. The Russell's definitely leading the charge here. You can see Bitcoin as well is starting to see a little bit of more sell side pressure. But MSTR is getting a nice little bounce here along with the spiders. The whole market is bouncing. Microsoft's not really bouncing as much. Nat gas is still very weak. Tesla's still out of the mega caps positive. Amazon's seeing a lot of weakness, down 8.9. Even Tilray, the marijuana stocks. Let's take a look at Canopy Growth. That's under a lot of pressure. TLRY. That's under a lot of pressure as well. Hexo was one that was in the rumors announcement. Look at that pop and then drop. Just absolute insanity. So MSTR is catching a bounce. That might have been the window to cover. I was being a little bit greedy. We did have $1 in our pocket there. We hit our target. So just shows you sometimes you're greedy and it doesn't end up. But again, yields are starting to perk up. The dollar's trying. The bounce that MSTR has had is much larger than Bitcoin. The way semis are weak right now, I think we could get some more downside still. Spiders are getting a big bid though, along with the Russell. The Russell's nearing some good resistance at 177.60. 177.60. Spiders are catching a big bid. UNG has softened substantially, under a lot of pressure right now. GDX is into that double top zone. Nvidia is trying to bounce. 2-year yield is trying to make a new high. Still have the likes of Mara, Riot performing exceptionally well right now. Nvidia is still negative. Microsoft's almost down 2%. Baba's rolled over. They had their AI announcements. They gapped up in the pre-market and now rolled over. AI. That stock is surging up. AI is making a nice big push. So we'll see if we get another round of selling to help MSTR come down. We are basically slightly in the money, but I'm looking for a little bit more on the trade. You're starting to see a little bit of weakness in the Russell, the banks, the KRE, but they still are positive. AMD, Nvidia having a nice bounce. Microsoft's also getting a bounce. Bitcoin's catching a bounce. Spiders are trying to push up as well. So MSTR is just hovering here. Spiders are pushing up. Coinbase is pushing up. Bitcoin's catching a little bit of bid. Seeing if there's a level on AI that I would consider. No level on AI yet. It is up 6.5%. There's a possible level on AI around 25.40 short AI. Apple's still at the lows, so definitely lagging there. But take a look at the spiders. They're trying to push up again. Spiders are just barely positive. Where I like AI for a short, $25.40. Let me just remove all these drawings. $25.40 straight shot in there. MSTR is coming back down again, guys. So let's see if we can test that yellow trend line. Or at least break that. What was the low here? Let's see if we can break 325. We need to break 325. We just need one more little round of selling. Nvidia saw a big sell there too. So did Microsoft. Bitcoin's still holding up though. Above 30K. Spiders are now pushing back up. Semis are really lagging today. Spiders are now trickling a little bit lower here. Microsoft still nearing the lows. XOM saw a nice big reversal. Nat Gas is testing that breakout support trend line around 225. Apple still trickling lower. The VIX is trying to creep back up. Tesla's trying to put in some bullish consolidation. It's actually one of the mega caps that's holding up really well. Let's take a look at WW again. I know I did mention that one. So still interested in this level up here if WW were to hit. It's a thinner stock. Let me just do a quick volume check. Yeah, we've got tons of volume there. MSTR is now pushing up again. Dollar softening. Again, 330, 350 on MSTR. Markets are still holding up relatively well here. Nvidia is trickling lower, so is Microsoft, so mega caps are seeing weakness. AMD's at the lows. Big sell-offs coming in Nvidia and AMD. AMD is down 1.6, Nvidia is down 1.1. Spider's now trickling lower. Bitcoin's seeing some selling. Nat gas is also under pressure. Still waiting on MSTR. Really hasn't seen any selling. XOM's under a lot of pressure. Could be an indication that maybe oil's about to roll over soon. Or perhaps it's just they're really serious about their PXD venture, buying them out. Take a look at the spiders. They're definitely lagging. The Qs are the one that's lagging as well. Down 0.444. The IWM is still holding on to positive gains. Micron, I'm still interested at that 6430 level, but we've got to watch the time frame. Microsoft's bouncing a little bit, so is Nvidia. Home builders are nice and positive on today's session. Spiders are still holding up. Gold is also pushing up. GDX is remaining strong. I like GDX day trade short at a Pierce of 35 bucks. The whole number on GDX, Pierce of 35 bucks. Spiders, let's see if we can touch the lower end of this range. Nvidia's catching a big bounce. Micron's pushing up. Markets are getting a bid. Look at Micron go. Micron's going into that level. How's our MSTR doing? That one, we're still just waiting on it. Again, 330, 350 is the next ad level. 330, 350. Apple's still nearing the lows, so no bounce for Apple yet. Bitcoin's getting a big pop here, so that's probably going to lift MSTR a little bit more. Coin is pushing. Get ready to add to MSTR. It's making a little high here. Nat gas has now gone to the negative side. It's dropping pretty hard. It is tagging that one support level that I drew in. It's approaching that level. I think it's the other chart actually. So you can see it busted through these ones. This is the viable support level for a long. But I'm not going to do it just quite yet. MU's hitting that first resistance. I haven't taken a position. 64.30. We're still waiting on MSTR as well. Coinbase really, it's up 8%. It's a pretty big move on coin, I must admit. But the only level that I have on coin, this is a tricky chart. This is a very, very tricky chart. Let me just look here. I mean, really up in this high volume pivot reversal, that's going to be your first technical level if we can get into there. I mean, it's probably going to get a pullback at some point because it is pretty extended. But we have to keep in mind that Bitcoin's also pumping. So these things can squeeze pretty hard. And there are a lot of shorts in this name, including myself. I mean, I'm shorting up way higher. But just remember that Bitcoin is starting to pump right now. And coin has been beaten up. So really the level that I only like is around 73.44. For a scalp, but it has to hit there in the next, say, 20 minutes. One of the reasons I'm not shorting coin compared to the other cryptos is because coin had that big drop down, so it was more oversold, so you're seeing a bigger move into it, and it's definitely a larger stock, so a lot more money flow going into it. Keep our eye on MSTR. Spiders just briefly made it a little bit of a lower low. You can see the SPY almost tagged that trend channel. Nvidia's caught a definite bounce off of the lows. MSTR. Spiders are under a little bit of pressure, but big names like Nvidia are still bouncing. Semis are still bouncing. Apple and Microsoft are still under pressure, but bouncing off of the lows. Spiders are now trickling a little bit lower. The Russell's also starting to see some weakness. So the big question is, can we break this channel now to the downside? And the big level is this wide range green bar. This impulse move, if you lose this pivot, you're likely going to test this wide range green bar breakout. So we're talking about a move from 408.96 down to the low 408s. So that's the big wide range pivot that we need to watch. As a technician, you need to watch that. If you lose that channel, you can play bearish trends down to about 408 in and around these trend lines over here. You can see this upsloping trend line and this channel. Natural gas is under a lot of pressure right now. Spiders are now coming a little bit lower. They're testing that trend line break, that channel break. Bitcoin's starting to see some selling after making a little bit of an intraday high during the market open. Nvidia is bouncing pretty hard here. Apple's starting to catch a small little bid. Spiders are catching a bid here. Bitcoin's trying to move up again. The new level I like on MSTR to add is around 334 Pierce, because we've consolidated here for about 10 minutes. Nvidia is still bouncing. Tesla's still up 1.45%. Mara Riot up over 8, almost 9%. Carvana, wow. Look at this one, squeeze. They always squeeze these stocks ahead of major economic data announcements. I don't really have a level on Carvana. That one's a tricky one. Spiders are now coming down a little bit. Yields are starting to push up. Nat gas is under a lot of pressure. If anybody took that GDX short, it's now coming in sharply. Apple's at the lows, so Apple's falling very hard here, which is why it's dragging down the spiders, and you can clearly see the rotation into small caps holding up very well, and the Qs. But again, if the mega caps start selling off very hard, we will see more downside in this market. Micron is still holding up fairly well. Still didn't quite hit that level. Take a look at the GDX, that's coming in. That hit that 35 level. No, just missed it by a penny. Bitcoin's still holding up. KRE, so the banks are pushing up. That's why the Russell's holding up nice and strong here. Let's take a look at MARA. shares had a beautiful surge. RIOT, Riot, do a coin check. Coin is starting to come in now. So Bitcoin's starting to come in now. MSTR is gapping a little lower, still slightly out of the money. Spiders are acting well though, pushing up. Coin is starting to push back up. The dollar's falling, so the dollar's going to test the lows here, which is not positive for the short. Apple's still fading though. Take a look at mRNA. I know that one gapped down, but it did rally off of the lows. So it was down about 8% in the pre-market. Spiders are pushing up. Dollar's collapsing, dollar's testing the lows here. So 101.99 is where the dollar made a low yesterday and reversed. Perhaps the DXY is foreshadowing a light CPI. But Apple's not responding to a weak dollar. Interesting to see that correlation. The small caps are still holding up. It's now approaching that 10:09 time frame. The KRE is pushing up. JP Morgan's just slightly positive. Let's do a quick spider check. Gold's starting to see some weakness creep in. A little bit of a sell candle coming in on gold. Bitcoin's still acting well. Micron's trying to push up. Coin's seeing its first red candle on the day. 10-minute red candle, I should say. So the selling in the S&P literally looks like it's Apple. And Apple is down now on the session 0.68%. Spiders are coming down. MSTR is still holding up. Hasn't really reacted yet. It's probably going to need the Russell to see some downside. And Bitcoin's really taking advantage of the stronger dollar or the weak dollar today. Coin is starting to come in a little bit. Take a look at all the other sympathy plays. Mara's in, Hut. So MSTR is the one that's holding up probably the most relative strength right now, although it's not up as much as all the other ones. KRE starting to see some weakness. Spiders are once again testing a break of this channel. The big question is, can we get a close outside of that channel? Spiders bouncing there, still holding that support. Microsoft's bouncing. Apple's starting to catch a small bid. Nat gas is catching a little bid. AI's up 7.4%. Wonder if that hit my level. AI just missed my level there. It's okay though. What else we have here? Tesla's losing some steam. Wow, take a look at this Lucy Smart Integrated ChatGPT glasses, up 194%. Now, mind you, before this gap up, they were only valued at around a $10 million market cap. So nothing, I mean, $10 million, I could move that stock a little bit just with the sheer light volume that it usually trades. But I have no sense in chasing a $10 million stock at this point when it's up 184%. Carvana is still up about 10%. Bitcoin's trying to push up. So Nvidia trickling lower, Apple, mega caps are trickling lower. And small caps are seeing that money rotation. Still interested in adding to MSTR, but it's been consolidating, so we have to be very, very careful. Spiders are now catching a big bid here. So MSTR is trying to push up. Still hasn't taken out the highs though. Nat gas is bouncing off of that little technical support. Let's go back to MSTR. So spiders are still challenging the support zone here. Apple's at the lows. Microsoft's trickling lower. It'll be interesting to see if Apple tests the lows from yesterday. For anyone that took that coin short, obviously I didn't, but you got a nice pullback. Probably take your profits. Microsoft's still under a lot of pressure this morning. Spiders are under a little bit of pressure, finally testing a break of this, but we haven't closed yet. We have not closed outside that channel yet. Tesla's giving up. AMD's making a new intraday low. Take a look at AMD. AMD was actually putting in this bearish consolidation. You've actually broken it now. MSTR I just added here at 334, guys. 334. 334. Brings the average up to 330.21. 330.21. Bitcoin's starting to see some sell side pressure, so that should help. Nat gas is bouncing. Apple's still trickling lower. AMD's trickling lower. Spiders are now testing a break of that channel again. So the next add level on MSTR would be 337 Pierce. 337 Pierce. But it is starting to come in now. Apple's at the lows. The spiders are breaking that channel now. So that's an important level. Obviously we have this wide range green bar impulse. Now this volume is not as typically as strong as what it usually is because it's always at the end of the day. You always get that heavy volume at the end of the day. Bitcoin's still under a little bit of pressure. MSTR is still holding up well though. Holding up very, very well. Nat gas is getting a nice bounce. So we gave that level pre-market in Nat gas. It pierced that level. We said this was the buyable level, and that's a terrific bounce. Too bad I didn't play it. Although we are long Nat gas already, full disclosure, as a swing trade. Volatility is trying to creep up. Spiders are now coming lower here. So this is primarily Apple. Now the big question is, do we get a 5-minute close outside of that range? Spiders are bouncing though, holding that level. So now we're coming up to that 10:30 time frame. I'm hoping to get out of this MSTR trade soon because the volume is going to lighten up here. Spiders are still under a little bit of pressure. MSTR is now coming down. Alright, spiders are still trickling. We did get a 5-minute close outside that channel, but now you're starting to see a bounce. Here comes MSTR. Microsoft made a new low, but seeing a little bit of buying now. KRE is starting to bounce. We're back in the money on MSTR. I'm looking for a gap fill, maybe cover over here. Even have another intraday gap down here. But because the time of the light volume is going against us, if we get a push down to 329.25, I will cover for a small profit. Let's see if we can get a... We do have a 10-minute topping tail forming on MSTR. There's still obviously 8 minutes and 50 seconds left in this candle. Or sorry, we did get a 10-minute topping tail on MSTR. Obviously you see a 5-minute here, but on the 10-minute chart we did get a 10-minute. Now often you'll get a 50% retrace, but we'll see if we can get some more downside. Spiders are still seeing some sell side pressure. KRE's weakening, Russell's weakening, Microsoft just made a brand new low. Home builders are acting well. Home Depot's up on the session. MSTR is right back up. Boom. So we'll see what type of a retrace we get here. Spiders are still fighting that channel. Bitcoin's still trying to bounce. The dollar's also trying to bounce, but so weak today. Maybe an hourly bottoming tail trying to form. You have a 30-minute tail trying as well. So MSTR did a little retrace. Now it looks to be coming back in. Let's keep a look on the spiders chart. It's going to be the leader of this market. Spiders are still fighting that level. Apple's bouncing, so that's going to help the spiders. They're recapturing that channel. Approaching 10:23 time frame. MSTR is right back up. Oil's getting a nice bid. Still slightly out of the money here on MSTR. It's pushing right back up though. We have a 5-6 position. Reason it's pushing up. Spiders are pushing up as well. So it's now testing that topping tail reversal. It's actually piercing that. Or it hasn't pierced it yet, but it looks like it's on the precipice of doing so. Microsoft's still coming lower. Tesla actually has a nice little flag pattern forming that looks to be potentially playable on the long side. You'd want a few more consolidation candles, but it does look like it's potentially possible to play the long side. It's unfortunate there's a gap below that hasn't been filled. So MSTR just made a nice little retrace, or did a full retrace piercing that topping tail. We need to see on a 10-minute close if it closes above that tail. In 4.5 minutes we'll know. Russell's starting to creep back up. Spiders are still acting well. Basically up on the session, 0.04%. Qs are lagging, and then the Russell is leading the charge higher, up over 0.84%. Volume today is very light. We're trading currently on the spiders a measly 6.98 million on the spiders. That's disgusting. Disgustingly light. So MSTR is pushing up. Bitcoin's also acting well. Gold's pushing up. Coinbase is now up on the session over 9.4%. Alright, so this is a final ad that's coming up on MSTR. The final ad is approaching. 337. It's looking like we're made negate that topping tail. Got 2 minutes left in this 10-minute candle on MSTR. Let's do a quick spider check. Be ready to add to MSTR. I will call it out if it hits that 337 level. Spiders are still holding up. Apple's caught a big bounce. KRE has weakened. Meta's had a huge move to the upside off of the lows. So we have 1 minute 30 seconds on this MSTR 10-minute candle. It did do a full retrace and then some. Riot's up 9.6. Amazon's lagging down 2.4. AI has pulled off substantially from the highs. It's only up now 4.5%. Take a look at AI. That's pulled off sharply. Coin is still rallying, pushing up even more now. Because you've got a 5-minute consolidation candle on coin, this level's still good, but the professional traders would likely raise their short level. But again, the volume trends now that we're in that 10:30 time frame make it a lot more risky to short. Spiders are trying to push up again. The dollar's trying to bounce, but it's still very, very weak. Apple's had a nice bounce off the lows. Alright, so MSTR negated that 10-minute topping tail. So that's a short-term negative for this short trade. See if we can get a little wave of selling. Bitcoin might be starting to come back down a little bit more, but it's still up on the session, 1.89%. Let's do a quick spider check. Oil's having a pretty big move to the upside. Had a nice dip and now it's gone back up 1%. Microsoft's challenging the lows, so Microsoft's definitely the mega cap that is lagging this market along with Amazon. Amazon and Microsoft and Apple are lagging today. Nvidia is still down 0.83%. Small caps are definitely acting well. Dollar's trying to potentially put in an intraday low. spiders are now trickling a little bit lower. MSTR, we are out of the money. Dollar's trying to perk back up. Apple seeing another round of selling. This trade is taking a little bit longer now. Not what we want to be stuck in heading into this time frame, unfortunately. Doesn't mean it can't come down. You are seeing continued weakness in the SMH, but that's still holding on to the positive side. So the regional banks have softened quite substantially. Now it's going to be interesting to see if the regional banks go negative. So that's the KRE. So the KRE has pulled off of the highs, was up quite substantially more. It's going to lag on the Russells. Now a heavy sell coming in on the spiders again. So MSTR is still holding up. Spiders are trickling lower though. The Russell's starting to roll over, show some little bit of weakness. That's probably due to the KRE. So now this is where things are going to get interesting. If we see a bigger rollover in the indices, it should help our MSTR. But again, the volume is so light that it doesn't take much buying pressure to get this up. And the volume's light because there's not too many sellers today. Bitcoin's seeing a big dump now. Bitcoin is seeing a harder dump. It's trying to hold that 20,000 or 30,000 level, but it is seeing a lot of pressure now. MSTR is coming in sharper now. We're almost back to the positive side. And look at Bitcoin dump. It's had a huge red candle down. That's probably due to the banks. Bitcoin's matching the regional banks here. Wow, the Bitcoin chart is matching the regional banks. MSTR is bouncing though. Markets are coming in. Is there another systemic risk about to hit the banking system ahead of CPI? Wouldn't that be crazy? Wouldn't that be crazy? And Micron spiders are still coming lower. Spiders are under a lot of pressure right now. Interesting. The KRE just went negative. KRE just went negative. So that's going to weigh in on the Russell. That is going to help our small cap MSTR trade because this Russell is coming in hard now. You lose this pivot, you're likely going to go to gap fill. So this is where we want the volatility to pick up. because it'll help us get in another long trade or short trade. Look at the spiders selling here. Definitely keep your eye on MSTR on your screen. I'll keep the spider window up. Something's happening in this KRE. It's rolling over pretty sharply here. Look at this. Look at this. MSTR is still slightly out of the money. Bitcoin's bouncing a little bit. Spiders are trying to bounce a little bit here. Nvidia just pierced and made a new intraday low. It hasn't closed there, but it did make a new intraday low. Tesla's still holding up. Apple's still negative. Spiders are getting a nice big bounce here. All right, MSTR, we're basically flat on that trade. I'm still looking for about a 329.30, 329.24 cover. Basically anything at this gap fill. All right, guys, I'm covering MSTR here, 329.12, 329.12. I am out of MSTR. It's a nice little profit for us. All right, so we waited and waited and waited, and we finally got out. Nice little win there. 329.12, so it's over $1. It's about $1.18 cover on us. All right, so let's sit back. After that trade was against us for quite a long time, the whole morning. We had a window to get out. I wanted to be greedy. That greed went against us, but overall we were able to pull that winner out of our pocket. It could go lower, but at this point in time, the volume is super light, so we just have to be careful about short trading in this market. Not saying it can't work, but the volume is light and the spiders are now gone negative and you are under pressure. So let's just be mindful about the volume trends because they are extremely light. The dollar's trying to creep back up. Bitcoin and regional banks are kind of trading in lockstep. It looks like the same kind of candle formation on Bitcoin in the last 40 minutes is kind of what the regional banks look like. So definitely keep your eye on the regional banks because if they continue to fall, it's going to bring down the small caps, and the small caps are leading this market higher today, and big cap tech is already weak. So if small caps start to give it up with big cap tech giving it up, that's when you get a broad market sell-off. Okay, so definitely be mindful that there is potential weakness that's looming in the banks, which could transfer into the market leading Russell. On that note, congrats on the one win. Unfortunately, it took a little bit longer. I mean, an hour win for us. Basically, I only had 120 shares in that particular trade, so it's still over. It's a nice little payday, over 120 bucks an hour. I'll take that. On that note, thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you on the charts tomorrow.